women, 3 teams, 2 leagues, 1 unpredictable season ahead.
Cue the music.
Good morning. Welcome to the upper deck for Pinstripe Chronicles. I'm Chris, that's Lynn, and we are very happy to be joined today by 2 very special guests. We have Kelsey and Suzy, and I'll let them tell you a little bit more about why they're joining us and what they do. Lynn, do you want to start off?
Yeah, so we're just going to talk back and forth so that everyone could get to know you and we could get to know you better, guys. So Suzy, let's start with you. How did you become a baseball fan and for the specific team you root for?
Perfect. So I became a fan of baseball, the actual sport of baseball, in 2018. So that whole magical 2017 World Series run that the Astros did, absolutely did not care about it. No F's given. My husband actually had to wake me up during Game 5. And he literally woke me up yelling, "Alex Bregman walked it off." And if you know anything about me, you know that you don't actually wake me up unless there's like the house is on fire or something is in danger. And I looked at him and I go, you said words that I know individually, and then you strung them together in a sentence, and I don't have a clue what you said. What are you talking about? And he's like, the Astros won, and he's freaking out, and I'm all, yay, sports ball, woo, good. I'm happy that you're happy, babe. Like, that's so good. I love that. I love that for you. But I was so mad. I was so mad he woke me up. And then, the Astros ended up winning the World Series, and I'm like, oh, yeah, baseball, okay. And then I started looking into baseball. So in my big girl job, I'm a photographer, and obviously we photograph a lot of seniors, and so that was a big topic of conversation. And so in doing so, I was like, okay, let me see if I can figure out anything about baseball that I can like hold my own and not look like a complete and total idiot, which, I do anyways, but less so. So I started looking into the Astros specifically because I am about an hour-ish from Houston. And so when I say I'm from Houston, I say Houston-ish because I'm not technically in Houston. So I started watching the Astros and started kind of like learning about the game. And I would ask my husband about, the game. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like, that's the shortstop. I was like, so the shortstop's got to be the short guy. Like, got it. Okay. And he goes, what are you talking about? I'm all, the shortstop is the short guy, right? Like, that's why it's named shortstop. I was like, the short guy right there. And he died laughing. He's like, absolutely not. Nope. That's our second baseman. That's Jose Altuve. And he's short, but that's not why the position's called shortstop. I'm all, so it's a weird game. That's okay, fine, whatever. But he goes, no, the tall guy next to him, Carlos Correa, that's the shortstop. I'm all, so then why is he tall? Like, it's in the name. It took me a while. To like get the whole gist of it. But 2018 came and I was like, oh, baseball. It's not horrible. I may kind of like it, maybe. And then 2019, we made that next World Series run. And then I got into it a bunch, but I only watched the Astros. And then I was deep into it and I was like, all right, 2020, here we go. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, where's my baseball? I was so sad. And then I started playing fantasy baseball, which got me watching all of the teams and just knowing all of the players. And like, obviously I needed the good players from the other teams. And that's really kind of what got me into it. And then I started listening to baseball podcasts, and I couldn't find many women-led baseball podcasts. I could find a lot of old white guys talking about baseball. But I have one of those of my own. And so like, I didn't want to listen to any more old white guys. And so I had started kind of, I had found one, no crying in baseball. and Patty and Potty Mouth, and they're absolutely fabulous ladies, and adored them. And I would tell my husband, I would talk baseball with my husband. He's like, I love you, but can you just talk baseball with like anybody else but me? Just anybody else, anybody else. Because it's literally all I would talk about. And he wasn't up on like today's baseball. Like if you
Oh,
want to
he's a
talk about like
casual.
if you want to talk about like Bagwell, Biggio era baseball, like the older era, like he could talk about that. I couldn't talk about that because I didn't know. And so, and he's like, just please, for the love of God, just talk about baseball with anybody else. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, why don't you start a podcast, Mom? Why would I start a podcast? Like, that's just silly. Why would anybody listen to me? He goes, you're a woman, right? Like, you want to be a woman in baseball. Why don't you? And I'm all, I can do it. Okay. So I found my original co-host, Shelby, who actually took her senior pictures. And we hit it off. Great time. And unfortunately, she had to step away from the podcast because she actually had a life and like was doing things. I'm all, fine, Shelby, just don't have time for me. Whatever. No, but she's great. We love her. And then for a little while, I went on a hiatus because I had a college algebra class that just kicked my butt. And while I'm Asian, I'm not that Asian. And it took all of my brain cells to concentrate on that. And then I found Kelsey. And I was like, Kelsey, come do this podcast with me. And she's all,
And I don't have a life, so here I am.
yeah. So it worked out. It worked out great. And now we're in our, I actually just missed our 1 year birthday, anniversary, whatever you want to call it, and didn't like celebrate that. And because it just passed right on by, I was like, oh, just kidding. So, and that's, and we're here now and we're talking baseball and we just talk all of the baseball teams and all of the Astros and we love it. We love it here.
That's awesome. And so you segued us right into Kelsey. So Kelsey, what's your story?
Before Kelsey goes, I want to just comment on Suzy's story a little bit because I had a similar trajectory for my own baseball interests. I grew up a Cub fan because I grew up in the Midwest, and I was a casual fan in the sense that I had moved away from the Midwest for my adult life. And I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of baseball again until I was living in Pittsburgh. And then I became briefly a Pirates fan, but it's hard to sustain Pirate fandom unless you're born there. So I started being like Ted Turner was made Braves games available. I was watching a lot of Mets games, Yankee games, because I was living in an area where these things were available on TV. And suddenly I was a baseball fanatic. I loved baseball. And I gradually, my husband was a fanatical New York Yankee fan. And gradually that's where I landed. I still love my Cubs, as sort of like a childhood sweetheart kind of thing. But, when I became serious about baseball, I started digging into the Yankees and the Yankee history and all that. So I know what you're saying when you say you kind of had an epiphany about baseball, because that happened to me in 2016. I'm like, I'm going to start writing about baseball. I want to be, going out there and talking on Facebook with other fans. And I really started tuning in to what was available out there to connect with other people. So I really appreciate your story. That's so cool. And I like that you're not a person who's afraid to say, I didn't like baseball until 2018. Because, there's some fans who'll give you shit about that.
Totally.
They'll be
absolutely.
Like, you're not a real fan because you don't know the whole history of everything. And so, kudos to admitting that.
Thank you. Yeah. We have a running joke that there's before baseball Suzy and after baseball Suzy. So basically anything before 2018, there's a good chance that like I'm just going to look at you like you have four heads if you just talk to me about it. Like, no, nope, don't know. And so after 2018, we can talk baseball. Anything prior to 2018, that's not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Hey. And Chris, it looked like you put a dagger in Kelsey's heart when you mentioned the Cubs.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you. I'm just here to say, like, let the Cubs be the one that got away. That is totally fine, Chris.
Yeah.
They broke Chris's heart, and it's over forever. We'll leave it like that.
Kelsey, I understand that you're actually a St. Louis fan living in Cub territory.
Oh, yeah. So actually, the majority of my adult life, I have lived about a half a mile away from Wrigley Field in Chicago. Yeah. So I'm right in the thick of it, but I grew up in central Illinois, right dead in between St. Louis and Chicago. And my dad is actually from St. Louis, and my grandparents were in St. Louis. And my grandfather actually worked at Sportsman's Park back in like the 1940s before, Busch Stadium was ever even thought of. So my grandpa was a diehard Cardinals fan. It was always on constantly at his house, and therefore my dad was too. So I grew up a fan of the game just by default to some extent because, my dad was a fan, my brother played, and he was quite good at it all through high school. And I was always a bigger fan of Major League Baseball than even my dad and my brother from a very young age. And I think the thing that really drew me into it was actually the kind of the analytical side of it and the strategic side of it. So I saw people when I would go to my brother's baseball games keeping score, and that there were the official scorekeepers at the games and stuff. And I guess I don't know if I didn't think to ask, hey, will you get me a scorebook? Or they probably just weren't as accessible way back when, 20 years or so ago. But I just made my own. I had, just kind of figured out how to use Microsoft Word and Excel. And it was a very new thing, but I made my own version of a scorebook that is nothing like a real baseball scorebook. But I kept stats for every game for like 2 or 3 summers in a row for every Cardinals game.
Wow.
I just completely fell in love. I call him now my coming of age crush was Matt Morris, who was a great pitcher for the Cardinals back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so part of it was definitely yes, I was, even as a 10-year-old, definitely by the time I was 12, appreciating the guys in baseball pants. But I was always into it from the strategy, the team sport, aspect of it, and appreciating all the different positions. And I just fell in love with it. I have stuck with it every step of the way. I actually moved to New York City and lived there for years out of college. And I think I've probably been to more Yankees games, at least as an adult, than I have Cardinals games. I went to Busch Stadium every summer growing up. My dad would take us there. That was our little family vacation every year. But I've been to Yankee Stadium certainly more as an adult. Or I've been to Yankee Stadium more than I have been to Busch 3, the current Busch Stadium, because I lived there. What's that?
And we didn't convert you?
Well, it's an American League team, so I at least feel like I can. Yeah, I didn't feel bad, wearing a Yankee shirt and attending. I didn't wear my Cardinals gear, to the game, unless they would have been playing, but that happened a lot less, back, I guess, 10 years or so ago when I was going often. Yeah. So I lived in New York City. I would find, I actually moved to New York City in 2011, just a couple months before the Cardinals won their really epic, unexpected World Series. So I would find beer gardens to go to where I could convince somebody to turn the game on for me. I remember watching one of them actually sitting in the middle of Times Square, and the World Series was up on the screen. So I would go wherever I needed to go to be able to just watch Cardinals baseball or follow it, even if I couldn't watch it when I was living, further away. But I ended up in Chicago, which is never a place that I thought I would be, but I am a musical theater actor, and I got a very cool contract that I did here, Broadway and Chicago show. And that's how I ended up here. And right in the middle of Wrigleyville, but I have got to go to a lot of games at Wrigley Field, which is, cool. No matter who you're a fan of, it is a very historic and cool place. And the experience of just being in that area is worth it, no matter who they're playing. And, I've got to go to Guaranteed Rate a number of times as well. But yeah, my love of baseball is one of the most constant things in my life that has just never changed. And it's funny that we're talking about this now, because my mom has been cleaning out my closet for my childhood bedroom, and they're getting new carpet. So she's trying to get everything up off the floor. And she's sending me pictures of all the stuff that she's finding in my closet. And I said to my husband, like, sometimes I think, was I really always this into it? Or is this just like a phase that I'm podcasting, so I'm more into it now. But my mom will send me, like, I made a Cardinals license plate out of cardboard. She has my whole binder of like the scorebooks that I kept. I have even, like the light switch plates. Like, I have Cardinals light switch plates in my bedroom, in my childhood bedroom. I have all these fan art, just like pictures I'd pull of like Tino Martinez, a common player we have with the Yankees, that I, like, made fan art of a picture of him I pulled off the internet and put his number and word art on there and stuff. And I would just print out and hang on my bedroom walls. So yeah, no, I've always been insane about it. And it's just something that really stuck. And so here I am, still very true to my Cardinals fandom, no matter where I'm at, behind enemy lines here in Chicago.
Kelsey, I need to see
that
this.
is amazing.
I need to see this fan art. I need to see this fan art and the OG Kelsey score
Yeah.
books. I need
I
to.
think there's a coffee table book coming.
Yeah,
I love it. And it's fantastic that you were drawn to the more cerebral aspects of the game, which is similar to me. I love the idea of the field, the game unfolding like a chess match between the two managers, and imagining how their mind is being working by what's going on the field. So I really love that you say that, because that's what drew me, and I cannot even add hardly, and yet I'm over there trying to figure out stats. I'm scoring the games.
Math is not my thing, but analytics, I feel like that's different. I don't need to know how to divide fractions and stuff. Like, I can analyze numbers.
It's reasoning and logic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yep. So Chris, I think you have a question.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that we find these points of connection with our experiences. How did you become confident enough to become podcasters about baseball? Because that was the one thing when I started, it took me a while to find my voice. And what did you guys sort of do? Or was it just through the process of experience?
I'll let you go first. Mine's a little more straightforward, I think.
Really and truly, to be honest, like I said, when I first heard some of the lady podcasters talking about baseball, I'm all, I would rather shove rusty spoons in my ears than listen to you. What is happening right now? Well, if you guys, if they can,
sorry.
If they no, not y'all, definitely not y'all. You guys actually know what you're talking about, but some of these women that were popular, I'm all, why? How? if this is what's out there, I can definitely do that. Like, I at least know what war means. Like, what? So, and then some of the guys that I would even listen to, excuse me, I just listening to them talk about random things, I'm all, no, I may not know as much, but at least I'm funnier than this guy. Like, I can do this. We can do this.
Right.
And so between myself and my co-host then Shelby, we had a lot of good laughs. And like I said, we were just snarky enough that it worked. And I had jumped headlong into all of the baseball things, and so I was like, "Hey, want to know this new term that I learned this week?" And she had played softball all her life, so she was a lifelong Astros fan, and so she would just laugh at how excited I was about the little nuances of the things that I would learn. And she's like, "You are just absolutely precious. It's so cute that you do this." And so just the fact that, I think the people that listened appreciated that I was that I knew that I didn't know all of the things, and appreciated that I was trying to learn the more of the things. And they were like, "You know what? We'll go along for the ride." And so, right at first, when I first got onto baseball Twitter, I had said something about learning things in the off season. What before baseball Suzy things should I like games should I watch? Because people would reference, different World Series and whatnot. And I think I was watching the 2012 World Series? No, 2014 World Series? Crap. When was it the Rangers and Cardinals World Series?
2013.
2013?
I think so. I should know this, but
Whichever one that Nelson Cruz was the outfielder that missed that. Oh, hi puppy. Oh, hello. No, you're fine. You're fine. I love puppies. Anyways, whenever
sorry,
he
no, it was
missed
the
that,
2011. You're talking about
2011.
the
Thank you.
David World
Yes,
Series.
David. Yes,
I
yes,
thought you
yes,
were
yes.
talking about the next one when they lost, but that was the Red Sox. Sorry.
No.
Continue.
So that when Nelson Cruz missed that ball in the outfield, I'm all, hold on. Nelson Cruz was an outfielder? When was Nelson Cruz an outfielder? Because I've always known Nelson Cruz as like a DH, right? Again, after baseball Suzy. And my husband just laughed and laughed and laughed. And I literally put that on Twitter, and everybody was like, that is hysterical. Yes, Nelson Cruz was an outfielder. And so it made for good comedy. And the fact that, again, like I was trying to learn along with all of the new stuff. And so, but with that and, the obvious sarcasm dripping from my voice, it makes a good pairing.
That's awesome.
I think
How
that's
about
actually
you?
really cool that you like to have one person who knows all about it and have someone who's learning, because there's a lot of there's so many different ways to be a fan of the game, which is what we're talking about right now. And I hate when people are like, well, if you don't understand this, you don't know this, like you're not a real fan. It's like, you don't get to tell me how to be a fan. That's one of the coolest things about being a fan of anything.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
that's a great way for other people to learn too, and then like not to feel stupid or like they can't be a part of it, and they're learning with you. So I think that's an awesome dynamic.
Yeah,
100%. And then you get to choose if you want to evolve into other aspects of being a fan. But yeah, fan the way you fan, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
You're on
Chris,
Chris, you're on mute. You were on Daisy mute. You're still on Daisy mute. We see the ears.
I'm sorry. I muted so she wouldn't be bothering anybody.
No, that's okay.
I was going to say, Kelsey, your podcast, Peace, Love, and Baseball, you've got an interesting and different voice there than I noticed that you have when you do Bourbon and Baseball or Babes. Can you talk a little bit about Peace, Love, and Baseball?
Yeah, so I started Peace, Love, and Baseball, and then Suzy and Jana, who's my co-host at Babes, they kind of found me from that. But I guess for me, it was kind of an easy, natural thing for me to choose to do because I have a theater background. That is what I am professionally trained in. And I'm a very audio driven person. So I really got into listening to podcasts when I transitioned into, I now have a very conventional work from home operations job where I don't talk to people a whole lot. And but I do have a lot more, free time on my hands. It's a lot more conventionally structured than, my previous roles of working in the fitness and the entertainment industries. So it gave me the opportunity to be a little bit more choiceful with what I was talking about and who I am talking to. And so podcasting was something that I started consuming a lot of as I'm working at home by myself, and I can put it on in the background. And there were two podcasts that I was really drawn to that I listened to weekly, and the one actually daily because he does a daily show, and they're very different than my podcast and very different than me. But what they are is they're both solo podcasts, and they're both two people that just were, I think, represented, comfortability and embracing just being themselves on the mic and like showing up every day and having an opinion and just being comfortable sharing it to kind of open up a greater dialogue among people. So I would say the two podcasts that really inspired me, one is a sports podcast, and that's David Sampson, the former president of the Miami Marlins, does a very popular daily podcast Monday through Friday called Nothing Personal with David Sampson. And that's the sports one. But actually, if you remember, this is a totally random connection, because if you listen to her podcast, you would have no idea about this in most episodes, but she has mentioned it. The other podcast is Dale Murphy of Braves fandom. It's actually his youngest child, his only girl, and her name is Maddie Murphy, and she does a podcast that is it's not sports at all. She is not a sports fan at all, but she is very into pop culture. She is a millennial woman, and that's called The Bad Broadcast. And so I would listen to that as kind of like the other side of me, like, the just generic, like, yeah, sometimes I turn on the Kardashians. I'm not ashamed to say it, like that side of me. But and then I found out like a year into listening to her that she's Dale Murphy's daughter. And I'm like, wait, this is too weird. The baseball connection is still there. And so after listening to them, it gave me kind of the confidence to just go for it, because, what's the worst that can happen? And this is something that I have trouble with, imposter syndrome, like we all do. But I was like, Kelsey, this is literally what you are professionally trained to do, is use your voice. Like, let's go do it. So yeah, on Peace, Love, and Baseball, it's kind of evolved a little bit, and it will continue to. But my whole idea with starting it was that I didn't want to just talk about baseball, but I wanted to talk about baseball. And I didn't want to just talk about the Cardinals. I wanted to talk about all of baseball, because I am more than a Cardinals fan. I am a baseball fan. So right now I've been doing it for almost a year and a half now. And currently this year, the year of 2024, I'm doing a different team feature. So I'm going through all 30 of the Major League Baseball teams. And each week it's called Peace, Love, and the Atlanta Braves, or Peace, Love, and the Philadelphia Phillies. Suzy did my first one, actually, Peace, Love, and the Houston Astros. So I'll give you a little history lesson on the franchise. I've got writers or podcasters, people who have worked for the team, that will come on and give some insight that only they can give, on each franchise. And then obviously there's more than 30 weeks in a year, so there's some other fun episodes thrown in there too. This coming week, we're doing Peace, Love, and the Super Bowl, which is not about football really at all, but it's about halftime shows and national anthems and the best snacks and all of that kind of stuff. So
I'm in.
Really, a good amount of
it should be about Jason Kelsey. It should be about Jason Kelsey or Kylie.
Yes,
Kelsey.
it should be.
Yeah.
He is definitely like he has the Peace, Love, and Baseball vibe for sure.
Yes,
We talk a lot about vibes on Peace, Love, and Baseball. It's a very like energy driven podcast. And I worked in the fitness industry for a long time. And so that's something that I'm, just kind of redefining what fitness is. So you're not going to get on there and hear me talking about like how to do the best version of a bicep curl, because that is not what fitness is to me. Like it's about wellness and longevity. And so if we're talking about it, it's going to be more along that lines. And then I think I'm very interested in the business side of baseball, because it is entertainment. It's the same as the entertainment industry. And because that is something that I do directly have experience with, all the contracts, from the broadcast rights to the player contracts, like all of that is just very interesting to me. And that's something that I talk a lot about too. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything, but it's Peace, Love, and Baseball.
Chris, you're on mute.
We can't hear you.
Sorry, this is the week when I'm having technical glitches. So I'm sorry.
Got to be one of us.
Yeah, it's got to be something. I was just saying, I don't even know what I just said. So we'll just move on.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I was just saying. But no, I listened to a couple episodes and I was really intrigued by the way you put together the topics. And they flow into each other so nicely, because, I mean, it's seamless. Your life in baseball, I mean, baseball is life. What can we say?
It is.
Exactly.
Absolutely
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think
when I was trying to convince Kelsey to come be my co-host, I was telling her that I was like, I don't understand how you do like a solo podcast and you just sit there and like talk about all of the things to yourself. Like I'm amazed, simply amazed, because I couldn't do it. I need like the back and forth of a conversation. And she's like, no, it gets easy. And I'm all, no, absolutely not. I don't nope, we're not trying that. Like, I need to find a co-host, so please come be my co-host so that I don't have to talk to myself. And she's like, fine, I guess
Well,
so.
that makes me
Okay,
feel
thank
good
you.
that I'm putting my, my Bachelor of Fine Arts to work because, what else is it for? Otherwise, I'm selling industrial supplies. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it's good for something.
And Kelsey, what about
For sure.
Babes
For sure.
Babes?
Yeah, so Babes is actually it is not a Yankees podcast, but it is
Right.
the brainchild of a Yankees fan, Jonna, who reached out to me because I was already doing Peace, Love, and Baseball at this time, and she had this idea for, I mean, it really came from the same place that Suzy said the Bourbon and Baseball came from, and that is that there's not a lot of women-led baseball podcasts, and there's nothing wrong with listening to men or whoever talk about baseball. Like, I like to think the least interesting thing about me and my podcast is that I'm a woman. Like, I do not care about that at this point, but we all have different voices and different perspectives that are worth being heard. And so Babes not only highlights women in baseball, but all the different pieces of baseball. I mean, we've done so many cool interviews we had the organist from Wrigley Field on.
Yeah.
We've had Rich Chichimino, who has been a TV and a digital content producer, and he now does the Mayor's Office podcast with Sean Casey. Interviews like that. I mean, we've done topics of highlighting specific women in all the different places in baseball. We've done episodes where one of our last episodes was we just went through literally all 30 teams and like their off-season moves and picked like our favorite ones and the direction that we think they're going for the off-season. So it's a little bit of everything baseball, but it is all focused around the idea that I think clearly there's 4 of us right here. There's a lot more of us that have a different voice, whether it's because we are women or just because we're people that now feel comfortable being a part of the conversation.
Exactly.
And
yeah,
so that's been really cool as well too. And I think it's awesome that we have representation from different fan bases in Bourbon and Baseball and in Babes as well, because Suzy and I talk a lot about how we have I have more of the National League perspective and she has the American League perspective.
Right.
So even that side of it
Yeah.
is really cool to just have someone else to bounce the headlines that we're seeing off of and like our perception of it based on our fandom too.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And I just want to take a moment and say good morning to our co-hosts in the live chat. They're with us every week. And Jonna is also here, guys, and set up above that, said hello.
Hi,
and so shout out to everybody. And I'm seeing some new names as well, which is always great to see. So JJ Jelani, hope it's not the first time. All our usuals are here, and the Strike Zone has a question for you ladies. What's your favorite part of the game of baseball?
Ooh,
definitely the baseball pants. No, I'm totally just kidding. Totally just kidding. Totally just kidding. I do joke about the schmedium pants though, but definitely I think my favorite part of the game is learning the stats of the various players and kind of the analytic side of why, like, hey, why should this player be up against this pitcher? Why should we, why is platooning a thing? I think that's part of like the biggest part of my favorite part of the game. So
mine is kind of the same in that, like, obviously that's what drew me to it to begin with is the strategy side of it.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I love that no matter how, convoluted analytics gets, the human side of it is like the human element is still equal part of it. And watching the managers and the players and the front office, like all try to constantly perfect that balance, especially this day and age in baseball is like my current favorite thing about the game. And I think it's what makes it different than other sports too. So that's the specific thing that I think that I appreciate about the game of baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
Great answers.
I just want to say that the two of you, I'm so impressed by when I listen to your podcast, your encyclopedic knowledge of baseball, because it's everything I can do just to study and research my freaking Yankees every day. I can hardly keep up with all of baseball as much as I kind of try.
Same. I don't know how you do it. I learn things that I don't know how to access from watching your shows because I'm so Yankee centric.
Yeah.
So
that's what I love about doing Bourbon and Baseball with Suzy is that like we are right now, it'll change obviously during the season, but right now our weekly show covers every single trade,
Right.
signing,
Yeah.
headline. And it's a great way for us to stay on top of everything. And I think it's a great way, like there's so many things to consume, right? So it's a
Yeah.
great way to just click in and like get your weekly update. And it's not just going to be regurgitating the information because obviously, we're opinionated ladies and we're going
Right.
to.
Yeah, absolutely.
for sure.
And so I just have to address Ella Yankee King, one of our regulars here. Ella, we're not jealous. We're grateful for those baseball fans.
Absolutely.
Just
Absolutely.
to be clear. Okay.
I feel
Good
like
timing.
more of the baseball players should have medium pants. I'm just saying. Okay. Like
That's so funny.
Good luck.
That is absolutely hysterical.
And Strike Zone, thanks for the question, and he thanks you for the response, ladies. So
Of course, our pleasure.
You guys, what has been the most surprising thing that's happened this off season to you?
I think honestly, I think it's got to be Corbin Burns to the freaking Orioles. Like, once they signed Rhys Hoskins, I think both Kelsey and I said, "Oh, okay, so they signed Rhys Hoskins. Oh, I guess they're not tearing it down. I guess they're gonna go for it."
Yeah.
And then they turned around. They're like, "Just kidding, Corbin Burns, go on over. Like, we good." I'm all, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree because as a fan of the National League Central, there is absolutely no reason why the Brewers weren't as in it as the Cubs and the Cardinals and even the Reds coming into 2024. And so I was surprised for that reason. And it's crazy how different it feels, how different their chances feel with him gone.
Yeah.
It does feel pretty drastic. But I hate to bring up the Shohei Ohtani thing because I know we've all talked about it to death. But the thing that I was surprised about is I guess I was the most surprised and the least surprised all at once. And then he signed with the Dodgers because I guess the writing was on the wall. It makes sense. Like clearly they were gunning for it and planning for it for probably years at this point. But I just really didn't want it to happen because it seemed like it was so obvious. And I would have liked to see him go to just about any other team other than the Cubs. That I did not need to happen. But I just think it would have been, I know it's like overall good for the game of baseball to have him on a team that already gets good exposure and stuff like that. But I think the Dodgers have a lot of excitement around their fan base already. And I would have liked to see him go with another team just personally. And so that was, I guess I was like, man, really? All right. And then with the whole, all the deferred money and stuff, like it was just crazy to see how that all played out.
Yeah, for sure.
Ooh, yep. And it set the market for everything else that followed. And
how crazy is it that we still have Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery have not signed yet? They're supposed to be somewhere. Who knows where? They don't know where. A week from now. Like, where are they going?
No. And when I think of Boris, I just think of like Dr. Evil. And he's in his laboratory, like snickering because he has a plan, and it's going to drop and shock the world. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to be for $1 million or how many millions.
He's like not even stroking a cat though. He's stroking like an iguana or something. That's how
yeah, the cat might have given him a little bit of sympathy points, but but we don't want that for cats anyway. So while we're talking about your biggest surprises, let's talk about your predictions for your teams this season. You guys find out who goes first.
I'm cautiously optimistic. And if we want to talk about like my second biggest surprise of the season, it was it was Jim Crane opening up his checkbook and signing Josh Hader, because
Yeah.
nobody in the fan base was expecting him to go over that tax threshold, because he just has proven that he did not want to, and he wasn't going to. And so
That sounds familiar.
yeah. So I'm very cautiously optimistic about our season, especially now that we have a catcher that can actually hit and is not a liability. And so that will actually play. And so I think with Yainer Diaz coming in and that back end of the bullpen, and if the other pieces in our bullpen can perform at the level that we think they can, I think you're going to see a 100+ win season from the Astros this season. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm cautiously optimistic. Like, if we could, if we could really get Dusty Baker's head out of his ass last season, like, we would have done some more damage. Let me just tell you what. But but we did not. So it's this season. So that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what I'm looking for.
Yep. Okay. We'll book that. And so, Kelsey, what's your prediction for the Cards?
I hope they
What's
win
in
at
the
least
cards
100
for the
games,
Cards?
Suzy, because otherwise they're gonna clip that and put it all over the place. This Yankee
I know.
here.
No, we will not. Susie's our friend. We support each other.
But yeah, so the Cardinals have recently been rated, as having, and this was before they signed their latest free agent reliever, who was another, pretty substantial move to round out the bullpen. But they were rated as having like the 6th best offseason. And I mean, they did a lot. They signed 3 free agent starting pitchers. One of them in being Sonny Gray, who was, in the top for Cy Young votes this past season. It's definitely going to stand atop their rotation all by his lonesome, because I would say the biggest concern that I have going into the season for the Cardinals is they have a number 1 starting pitcher, and then they have 4 number 5s. So we'll see how that plays out. I think on paper, going into this season versus last season, the Cardinals probably do look substantially better. Like, analytically, if you do run the hard numbers, I think that that's what they did to kind of prove it to themselves while not spending a lot more money. But how that's going to play out, I'm unfortunately not as excited about the signing of Sonny Gray because of the other pieces that they put around him in the rotation. I am, however, excited about what I think we're going to talk a little bit about more here later on as well, is the younger players that had a lot of potential but not a lot of experience in the last couple seasons, that I think we will see really turning a corner and making some noise in 2024. So do I think they'll win more games than last year? Yes, I freaking hope so, because the first losing season in 30 plus years, like, man, something better be different. But do I think they're going to win over 90 games? No. So will it be enough to win the NL Central? Definitely could be. So
okay.
we'll see it, I guess. You guys being in the East, the AL East, you're like, wait, we have to win 95 plus games, like, to really secure this, to have a chance. No, 84 wins will get us there. So, we might be the Diamondbacks from last year, but if that's what happens, John Mozeliak, the president of baseball operations for the Cardinals, his favorite saying is, you just have to get in to the postseason.
That's it. Yeah, by hook or by crook, and squeeze in there. Wild card or whatnot. And Kelsey, you mentioned something about the young players. And so I was reading an article about, the top players to look for this coming season. And so for every team. And of course I pulled out these 3 teams, right? And so that was exactly what this article said, was that for the Cardinals, what you're going to look for is the WAR for the players under 25. And so, right. And especially keeping their eye on 3 players in particular. See if you agree with this. Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, and Mason Wynn. Does that feel right to you based on their stats?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we have guys like Tommy Edman and Brendan Donovan, who are undoubtedly like integral pieces to any baseball team would be thrilled to have either, let alone both of the guys like that on their team. They've been around. They've kind of like established themselves in over the last few seasons. Nolan Gorman came up in 2022, but he was up and down a few times. They never really let him hit against lefties, and he was a third baseman that they moved over to second base because, we have Nolan Arenado. So by trade, third baseman that they moved over to second base. So he had the challenge of making that adjustment and doing it, for the most part at the major league level. I'm not sure how many games he actually got to play in the minor leagues before they were just like, we need your bat up here, so come on up and we'll figure out the rest. But in the 2022 season, he had 0.8 WAR. In 2023, he had 2.4 WAR.
Okay.
Oh.
And he still was like, I don't know how many games he played in 22, but it was not a lot. I think it was probably less than 80. So it was not even half the season that he was up with the team, and he wasn't starting. He got so many more reps in last season. He made huge strides on both sides of the ball last season. And there was a point where he was looking like he could, be on that top list of home runs for the season. He was leading the league in home runs at parts of the season. He in my opinion, should have been an all-star. And I think if he was a more established player, he probably would have been an all-star last year.
For sure.
So yeah, he is somebody who I think is locked in now, and it could be a player that gets MVP votes for the Cardinals in the next few seasons. Walker and Wynn are even younger. They're both 20, 21 years old. They have been top prospects in our system since they were drafted in 2020. And Walker got to play most of the season last year with the big league team. He was brought up again, probably before he was ready, but another by trade third baseman that they were like, man, we need your bat, so we're moving you to the outfield. And they put him out in every position, in right field and left field, constantly switching him back and forth. He was an absolute freaking liability out there in the outfield at the beginning of the season. It was really rough. And obviously had some adjustments he needed to make with getting the ball off of the ground a little bit more at the beginning of the season. So they sent him back down, brought him back up, but the potential is there. So obviously, and all things considered, he made the adjustment very quickly, especially at the plate. And by the end of the season last year, he was he was a big league outfielder, completely different player out there. So very excited to see him as our starting right fielder this year. And I think if he had played less games in 23 and they had brought him up, given him the chance for that Rookie of the Year eligibility in 24, if they were going, to give him the Rookie of the Year chance, he absolutely would have had it. So I would expect huge things from him. And then Mason Wynn came up at the very end of the season last year. They did keep his rookie eligibility intact. So he could potentially be a Rookie of the Year candidate, a sleeper pick, I think, coming into 24. He is the shortstop of the future. He's an amazing defensive shortstop. He throws, he was a two-way player in college. So previously in high school, I guess he forewent college to be drafted, but he throws incredibly hard. So the speed that he is coming with to make those outs across the diamond, there was already at least 2 or 3 times where they turned double plays with him at shortstop last season that just straight up would not have happened if it wasn't him there by, literal split seconds. How that goes when they're like, if that had been 0.3 miles per hour slower, he would have been safe. So he's a difference maker out there for sure. And I think he could settle in and be a good hitter at the bottom of the lineup as he gets some more reps. So I think that article is spot on because, to have one player like that, that's exciting to keep an eye on. The Cardinals have 3, and that's pretty exciting.
And so this is a better ending to that part of the article rather than the concern about the starter and the rest of number 5s.
But I see L.I. Yankee King over here is saying the Cardinals just need younger pitching. And you nailed it, sir, because the average age of the pitching staff, I think, is 34 and a half. No shade. I'm 34 and a half. I love me, but I don't play professional baseball. Our youngest starter is 33. So
and going back to Wynn for a second, you mentioned that now he has a candidacy for Rookie of the Year in 2024. I want to say that we have a shortstop who was the Gold Glove winner
Yes.
And so that sounds like another possibility for a player like Wynn with the numbers he's throwing down.
Totally. Absolutely.
So, not all doom and gloom there for the Cards.
Yeah, I'm a defense queen, so I'm all about having those kinds of players and, working him into the lineup, especially with the power that they have around him. They don't need him to be, a 20 plus home run guy.
Right.
We like to say that the Cardinals rotation needs a little bit of spice.
What did you say? They're running on Ben Gay and vibes. So true.
Pretty much.
Okay, well, I'm about to have my 60th birthday this year, so.
But are you a major league pitcher though, Lynn? Like you are not.
Well, as it turns out,
I think also
I did have a talk with Morris yesterday.
I'm sorry, I saw that you put the Long Island Yankee King, his comment about Nolan Gorman going to first base.
Yeah.
I think Nolan Gorman will stay at second base. I could see Jordan Walker coming to first base is my current read on that.
Okay.
But that could be a potential as well. I had not really thought about Gorman at first.
Yeah, interesting. And so for the Astros, Suzy, they're saying the biggest thing this season is going to be Christian Javier's ERA. And basically saying that of the struggles he had in the last season, and that he started out strong, but then he struggled after a while and flopped in Game 7, right? And so they're wondering a lot of uncertainty about the rotation to begin with, but the eye of concern really being on Javier.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Christian Javier really only has two main pitches, his fastball and his slider. And if one of those is not working, you're just going to sit on the other one. And the Game 7, Christian Javier, unfortunately, when you only have those two pitches and the other team actually goes and practices with the batting machines, and instead of actual baseballs, they're using ping pong balls to kind of mimic that ride.
Mm.
And you do that for, like 3 days straight in preparation for seeing Christian Javier, you're going to tee off on his fastball. And the fact that if he couldn't throw his fastball, now all he has is his slider, you're going to sit on the slider because he doesn't have a third pitch. So unfortunately, I think he has a curveball that he throws, I want to say like 3% of the time. It's not a great curveball. So if he could figure out his curveball or figure out another breaking ball that he could throw in there, I think that will help him a lot. I think so. In 2022, he was kind of our swingman. And so last season was his first season as a starting rotation pitcher. And I think that also got to him, like stretching him out, and because he had thrown more innings than he'd ever thrown before. And so I think it was a mixture of being tired, kind of being not out of shape, because by no means am I saying he was out of shape, but I don't think he was conditioned as well as he could have been. And then, like I said, that 2-pitch mix that, unfortunately, when you're teeing off on fastball and you only got the slider, you get what you get. Strike zone, I do not think that the Astros are bringing Bregman back. And Bregman is positioning himself to no longer be an Astro, and it kind of hurts in my heart of hearts, not gonna lie. He had I don't know if outside Astros world people know this, but he had a salsa brand called Breggy Bomb Salsa, because when he would hit homers, that's what he would be called, Breggy Bomb. And they just rebranded all of his stuff now to be called Wild Soul. And we're all, what the F is that? Like, that's the dumbest name in the entire world. And he did a little like promo blurb thing, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Alex Bregman. You may know me from playing Major League Baseball." No, the F we don't, Alex Bregman. We know you from the Houston Astros. Like, you better be proud of like where you came from, sir. And so you can just, the writing is on the wall. You can kind of see that he is kind of distancing himself from the Astros, and it, like I said, it kind of hurts. Kind of hurts on the
Yeah.
inside. But I think they're really gonna open up the wallet. Fingers crossed. I'm really, 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 really hoping since they brought Josh Hader in for 5 years that they're gonna go sign Kyle Tucker, extend him. Just fingers crossed. Because if I have to watch Kyle Tucker on another team, I may just have to yeet myself off a building.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now you look really sad.
The Yankees fans are not sad, Suzy. They're happy. They're calling for Bregman to leave. They won't miss him on the Astros.
Shh, we will miss him. Okay, we will miss him. I wanted Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman to be lifelong Astros, but that's not going to happen. So I will take my short king. I will take my short king, and I will be happy, and I will be content. That's what I will do. That's what I'm telling myself, anyways. We're speaking it into existence. That's what we're
exactly. Doing. And since we are a Yankee podcast, maybe you guys could let us know what your thoughts are, predictions maybe for the Yankees in 2024. Any change in that in the last few days?
Well, I have a question. I have a query for our Yankee fans.
Yep.
How are we feeling about Svelte Giancarlo Stanton? Does that make y'all happy? Does that worry you at all? What are we doing out there? Like what's happening with Giancarlo?
You want to go first, Chris?
I need that answer before I can.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to get that answer.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of known as the anti Giancarlo Stanton fan. I don't dislike Stanton, but I never in my life could figure out why we got him. And I've never figured out. I mean, I get it that he was an MVP and you don't turn people away. But he was superfluous. And he has remained superfluous, in my opinion. And he's not now. Last year was a disaster. He hasn't hit well since the All-Star break of 2022, actually, is when things started going downhill for Stanton. And if he's going to rebound for this year, he's got a pretty high hill to climb. I think he's got a long way to go. It's not just a matter of returning to form because he's not a step or two away from his form. He's pretty much a long way off. So that's my... yeah.
So I was really confused I was like, okay, because in my theory, quote unquote, of the Yankees, you're not putting Aaron Judge in center field for the majority of your games. Like you want Aaron Judge as your DH in my head, because I would think that I would want my big bopper to stay off the field so that he can not get hurt. He cannot, run into walls. So in my head, Aaron Judge is your DH, but I'm like, Aaron Judge can't be your DH because you got Giancarlo Stanton that can't do jack in the outfield. So
there you go.
Giancarlo Stanton has to be DH. Like, okay. And then, so that puts Aaron Judge in the field, but I'm all, but not saying anything against Aaron Judge's defensive capabilities because he is a wizard out there. But you got Trent Grisham that while his bat is not as strong, obviously his defensive capabilities are out there. So I'm all, what are you gonna do? And then you got like Alex Verdugo that's like, hi, I'm here too. I can kind of do things. Really, Alex Verdugo, but we'll pretend, And then you got Juan Soto, which, I'm like, what's happening out there? What are y'all doing?
And that's the thing. I mean, if there's one place that we have depth, it's the outfield. And one thing you can rely on, Suzy, is that Judge is going to get his rest days.
Okay. So are we talking like as DH rest day or like not on the bench?
I think a combination, because there's two things we know we love that Boone loves. He loves playing chess with his lineup. He loves moving those little pieces around, and he also obviously was a preschool teacher because he really believes in naps. And so everybody's going to get their nappy day. And, especially, his top guys. And so, we do have a little bit of depth at DH because of that. Stanton is going to be the regular DH for all the reasons you just said. And Judge, in terms of the outfield, if Stanton needs to stay as DH, then like you said, then we pivot. Because Soto could easily move over. Verdugo certainly could move over, and then we have utility guy Cabrera, who we could toss out there on rest days. So I think the difference is you want to rest Giancarlo, you need to rest Giancarlo. And it's selfish more than out of caring for him, I think. And Chris and are counterpoint on Stanton. If you notice in my background in the top left corner, I'll be back, number 27. I'm so yes, rest in peace, Muscles. I'll miss them. I'll miss them a whole lot. And could go back to the whole uniform pants thing, but I won't. But I just did. And and I think that seeing all the press about how early he's been down there, how he's doing, and he's always been a loner, but and that's also, I think, because his whole makeup is Eye of the Tiger, and I think that you saw it really at end of season the most, how just mad he was, and that he knows this is ride or die. It doesn't matter. It's not, I don't think, to him and his makeup. He's old school accountability guy. And we don't see enough of that with the bravado and hubris of so many of the players these days. He is accountable. And so I think between that and hopefully Dawson doing some good work on adjusting some of the mechanics, and I'm hoping that maybe he could get from home to first within 5 minutes this season. That's the bar I'm set.
Lynn, I want to join your team on this one in defense of Giancarlo Stanton. I think I missed this though. Did so he has cut size? Is that what we're talking about?
Leaner, yeah, less muscle.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, so I actually am super interested in this topic alone because the Cardinals had a player similar in, I mean, not nearly the height as him, but they've had players like Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader who are more like built outfielders as well. And it's true, their body type cannot be held against them to a certain extent. They are more susceptible to injuries, especially with the athleticism that they are utilizing in the outfield. Does that, do they make up for it in the power at the plate with somebody like Giancarlo Stanton? At times in his career, he absolutely has. So you'll forgive it. I do think with his age alone too, like he's in his age 34 season, for him to be adjusting his training to cut size, like that's not something that you choose to do in an off season. This has been something that has, he had to plan for. And I say this all the time with Tyler O'Neill, where they're like, just stop lifting, bro. Like, stop being so jacked and you'll stop getting hurt. That is not something that like you can safely make the decision to do when he's been like that for 10 plus years. And he's been, bodybuilding style training since he was a teenager. So I would say, like, give Giancarlo Stanton a break, like assume that yes, he can potentially make these adjustments that would make a difference for him to stay healthier, to also be, I mean, I've heard that he likes playing on both sides of the ball. We know most players hit better when they are playing on both sides of the ball. So, is he going to be out there when you have your fly ball pitcher on the mound? I hope not, but maybe depending on, the matchup with the pitcher and how you align the outfield, I think there's still a place for him. And obviously his contract is untradeable. So you might as well figure out the way to make the most of him. And I wouldn't give up on him just yet. I'm hoping to see, light how many more years the old Giancarlo.
How many more years do y'all have, Giancarlo?
I believe it's Chris. Go ahead.
I don't know. I was thinking 2026.
Yeah, but y'all are like just too long.
I can't. Well, I'm not sure, but it's too. Yeah. Whatever it is too long.
I was gonna say 4, so let's say 3.5. The chat's gonna tell us.
No, okay.
4
more. King says 4 more years. More. Oh my god.
So exactly. Okay. And $12 bajillion. So nobody's taking his contract on, and Lord knows we've eaten, big ones before, but it's so, and I agree. And he's, and the more you're so right, Kelsey, the more you play, the better you do. And it's got to stink that he's not out on the field for him. But they're not going to roll the dice as often as we'd like to. Especially with we have out there defensively. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
kind of want to
I
circle.
think.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to circle back to the point one of you made about Judge in center field and how I think that there's been some, at least among fans, saying that center field is more taxing, that Judge stands more chance of being injured out there. And I've been reading a lot of contrary opinions to that. And I think that Judge is going to have a great year in center field. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen when Dominguez comes back and around the All-Star break, whether or not Judge, I mean, then there's going to be some decisions because we're going to suddenly have a glut of outfielders that need places to play. So that I have no idea how Boone's going to resolve that. But I would like to see Judge. He's never been able to win a Gold Glove because, for one thing, injuries, and he hasn't had enough. As I understand it, he didn't qualify for a Gold Glove in right field. But I mean, it would be great because his defense, I think, is that level if he had the opportunity to win a Gold Glove, either at center, which I think he'll be fine there, or at right. And I don't think he has any more chance of getting injured in center than he did in right myself. Do you guys think, or what?
I'm sorry. I think that was just a weird, wacko thing that happened with the Dodgers.
Yeah,
I just think it's nothing about anything but like a 1 in a gajillion chance that your toe is going to get jammed on a particular section of cement block. That's usually something that happens to yours truly. Not to the likes of Aaron. What?
I said not to Aaron Judge. No, I totally agree with you, Lynn. Like, it's a freak thing. It would have happened to, it could happen to anybody. It does happen to anybody. And ultimately, like, I think on paper, and I think Suzy would probably agree with me here, we think like center field is because, for example, you see people like Harrison Bader who play. What we love about him is that he plays center field with such reckless abandon that like he does get injured more often. And that is a big reason why. First of all, he has a totally different body type and style of play than Aaron Judge. And I think when it comes right down to it, it really depends on what the player is most comfortable with. And it sounds like Aaron Judge is very comfortable and confident in center field. And like, he's got it figured out enough out there that he's not worried about it. And at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah. And he's said how much he enjoys it there.
Right.
And he got some good time out there last season. And you know what? I'm not mad at his height in center field either. If we want to talk about, short and tall.
I mean, because the reason I say that I would rather like bubble wrap Aaron Judge for y'all is because I would like to bubble wrap Yordan Alvarez when he plays in left field sometimes, and he's making these diving catches, and I'm like, oh, for the love of God, why are we doing that? Like, can you just let that ball go by? Like, I don't need you hurt, Yordan, please. Okay, like don't do that, Admittedly, I have not watched as much Yankee baseball, surprise, surprise, as, you fine ladies have. But I have seen enough where I'm like, oh, Aaron Judge, is your arm okay from going over the thing? Like, oh, are you okay? Oh, okay, you're okay. And for me, I'm like, I don't need that like anxiety holding my breath, making sure that, like the big guy is okay. Cause like last season, he literally was your offense. Like, that's all you had, right? And so
came and went with him.
Yeah. Well, can you not?
Sure did.
I was like, just bubble wrap him, just bubble wrap him, like please, for the love of God, And so that's like my feeling. And Yordan the same thing. Like he loves it when he plays center field, and his numbers jump dramatically when he plays left field. But we're all just don't dive for the ball. Just let that ball go, okay? Just don't do that. Don't do that. But. So that is kind of like why I'm like, just okay, if you can play center field, if you have this big bubble around you, like he needs to play with those big gerbil hamster wheel, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That you can like sumo wrestle with. That's if he can play center field with that, like yes. Done. Do it.
You
Do
know
it.
what those guys would say to you though, Suzy, is like they don't get paid. They didn't get those big contracts to be a DH. Like they get paid because they can play on both sides of the ball, and that's what makes them different than like football players.
That's
like
right.
you know, and so I think
Listen,
they
Kelsey,
wanna
I
do
know,
that.
like the analytical brain side knows this, okay? But like the fan
They're like, don't
side is like,
pigeonhole me. I don't have to be one or the other. I can be both.
like, don't do that, Joe. Oh, okay. Like I don't need that anxiety in my life. I get that enough with like Martin Maldonado back there. All right, like I have enough anxiety. Okay, like I don't need any more. When Jordan's like diving for balls out there and just okay, the rational part of my brain says they can do both. They do both wonderfully well, and everyone is happy.
Right.
But then they go tumbling, and I'm all, don't do that.
I think a common thread here is that we all suffer from anxiety.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you know, each of our teams, regardless of our histories, you know, recent or further back, and we also like maybe it's also maybe it's a little Mars Venus thing, and you know, we tend to go, oh, ouchie, oh, is he okay? Although I kind of hear Boone saying that in his head, but anyway, but that's another topic for another show. But I appreciate the concern. And I guess, and you mentioned Alvarez. I think we all have our version of it. And Judge, you know, I think this is going to be a year. First of all, he's not going to miss a big chunk of the season. That's my prediction. And look at what he did when he came back from that season. His home run numbers were nothing to sneeze at, and that was with missing
totally.
several
Right.
weeks.
Right.
And I think that's what we're getting back.
I think the Yankees and the Cardinals probably are in a similar position. I mean, I do think the Yankees are better built, and they have to be because they have to be competitive on a different level of their division. But I think they're in a similar position in that they both could really improve greatly and make the fan bases feel a lot more comfortable with one more top of the rotation starting pitcher. Would you guys agree with that?
I agree.
Oh yes, it's been the common thread through all of our shows every Sunday. Yep.
I mean, the thing is, I feel like before I also write, as you guys probably know, for Inside the Diamonds, and I had the dubious distinction of writing an article this week where I reviewed the AL East, and I said how Yankees were the most improved team, and that I felt like their rotation was probably going to be, you know, right up there. I think anyway. And don't you know the next day, the Corbin Burns new trade dropped. And that just destroyed my premise because I no longer feel that way. And I do feel that the rotation needs, I mean, yes, before that, I felt like it would be nice to have a Jordan Montgomery and Snell join us. But now I feel like we need them to compete in the East.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Joan, first of all, thanks for joining. Yeah, we do have that, you know, those options in AAA, and word on Warren and Hampton all off season has been exactly that. And so, you know, we do have that in our pocket as well. And something else that's come up is, you know, we have to be careful about our 40 man as well. So we have to unload some catchers for sure. If we're going to be adding more, but I would feel better with more. And we'll just have to see. And you know, the question is, is Cashman done? Look at my headline there. He scared his own shadow, and so there's going to be a longer winter ahead. That's what happened to him on Groundhog Day.
Hey, we'll take a longer winter if it ends eventually with something, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
out if you need
he
to.
says he has until July 31st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
So it'll be midnight on, July 30th. Something will drop.
Well,
but anyway,
Anthony Rizzo will not be playing half the season with a freaking concussion. You know, you've got like Juan Soto to back up. Aaron Judge. Do you? Or is Aaron Judge going to be protection for Juan Soto? Who's
I know
batting in front of
that's another question that's interesting this year that people are going back and forth on. Which came first, Soto or Judge? Which should come first?
I'm
Boone
thinking
has said he's
Juan
plugging it in.
Soto before Aaron Judge.
That's
because
what
Juan
Aaron Boone has
Soto,
said, right? Is to
yeah,
That's what,
I
I
think.
think that's what Boone
But
said. Yeah.
Yep.
who's leadoff?
Leadoff is going to be DJ LeMahieu, and and the judge was asked at his gala last week or whatever it was by Boone. Really, Boone setting himself up, man. So Aaron, what do you think the lineup will look like? And Aaron said it's going to be DJ, Soto, and me, and that's how it's going to be. And so like there's media clips galore on that now, so we'll see what happens. And then he said, and then the rest, they'll follow. So, but it was in line with what Boone had been saying. But beware the chessboard, because he hasn't put it away in his closet. Yeah,
I mean, even if they move Soto, because I could see Soto being a valuable leadoff hitter too. So even if they whatever, I do think that Soto is in front of Judge, and it just goes as long as it goes Soto Judge somewhere in that lineup. Like with the amount that Soto walks, like his ability just to get on base,
exactly.
and the fact that he can also hit it out of the park, like put him in front of Judge every time.
Yeah,
100%.
It's going to be so much fun to watch those two back to back.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hopefully
that's
what
we'll call it. That's what we'll call it.
Fun, Suzy.
No, I will be interested to see how well that works out, because I, in my heart of hearts, as a person, I like Juan Soto, but as a baseball player, watching him, I kind of want to punch him in his face all the time.
He wants you to feel that way.
Yeah, he does.
If I have to watch that Soto shuffle, like if I had to watch that on my team, I would learn to be okay with it. But watching it on another team, I want to punch him in his face. I want to punch him in his face. Like that's why I'm an SML person, because I would just get into all the fights.
I'm not looking forward to it as a fan, Suzy. Give a cute little bat flip or something, but it's a little bit ridiculous and not really the Yankee way. But
well, that's the other thing, is I'm really interested to watch players like Soto, Verdugo, and Marcus Stroman, like how they all kind of adjust their personalities on a team like the Yankees too. Yeah. That's going to be just as interesting as the level of play happening on the field.
That's a lot of testosterone in a clubhouse, and and they got to walk the lines that they're not used to walking.
What's the Yankee dress code on tattoos? Is that still a thing, or like, because we were wondering it before, and I was like, I don't know what that is. Like, is there one? I don't know. Can they have the visible tattoos, or?
I don't. I'm trying to picture it in my head. I don't know that if there is a policy. I don't know what it is. Okay. But I'm thinking like somebody like Chapman, he was pretty well covered up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm not sure. Do you know, Lynn?
I'm not sure on that. And I will say that Chapman was good at covering up, but that's anyway. So they can have tattoos. Okay. Thanks, Effie, for letting us know.
Okay.
And Li, listen, Li. I'm a teacher, and I'm trained to ignore those that misbehave, but not going to do this here. For the love of God, stop talking about DJ needing to go. He is not going. Call me. I will counsel you. He is not going. He is the leadoff. They're not going to trade him. And you could ask every show, as you have been doing. You probably parade around everyone's show and pick it up when it's not a Yankee show. He's not going anywhere. Call 1-800-444-COPE.
DJ, I'm going to put in my 2 cents on DJ, and that is bring on Peraza. Why isn't Peraza getting the chance to showcase himself at third base we need to get him involved.
Well,
he needs to play. He needs to play.
Yeah. Love to hear what the chat has to say about that. For me, I think that everything I said about DJ, there's some times where LI will be happy, where he won't be leading off because he won't be hitting. He'll have his nappy day. And we'll get to see some Peraza time on those days. And we'll have to see, I mean, we're talking about best conditions this whole time. Their injuries are gonna injure. It's gonna happen. Hamstrings are gonna string. So, I think Peraza will get some play. But I agree, Chris, he deserves more time.
Yeah.
And we talked about the outfield too. So, but he's really suited for the infield. And let me see if anyone in the chat has a comment about that.
I didn't realize DJ was such a divisive figure among.
He's not. LA Yankee King is a divisive figure. Really,
no, I think DJ is a little bit. But anyways, I wanted to sort of wrap this up and see what your final thoughts on the season are coming up into 2024. Do you have any predictions as far as who you think? Or I know we're a long way away, but who do you see perhaps leading the different divisions? Who do you see coming out on top in 24?
And let me just insert, Suzy. Joan is reminding us that opening day in Houston is against the Yankees.
Oh, I am fully aware, and I already have my bail money fund just chilling. So fully aware. Yeah. It's a whole thing.
But anyway, back to you with the question.
Yeah. Well, who do you guys see coming out and winning this whole thing? Anybody come to mind? Is there anybody that you see that's improved so much that they are maybe the big winners this offseason?
Well, I will say that the AL West still runs through the Astros.
Yes.
I think it's not going to be as easy as it has been in years past. I think the Rangers are going to give us a little bit more of a dogfight, but the AL West still runs through the Astros. Now, I'm not as positive that the AL runs through the Astros as I have been in years past. And now with the addition of Corbin Burnes to the Orioles, a part of me is really begrudgingly saying, oh shit, the Orioles are going to win like 40,000 games this season because I don't even know how. And I sneakily knew how good Kyle Bradish was, but you don't ever remember Kyle Bradish until you get into the weeds of the stats and you're like, damn. And now that Corbin Burnes and Kyle Bradish are right there, and they won 99 games without a decent starting rotation for like half the year. Yep. You're all, how did Kyle Gibson win those games? Like, what? And now that everybody
was hoping he's going to keep it up for my sake.
Yeah. Fingers crossed for the Cards. But now that Grayson Rodriguez has figured it out, I think Grayson Rodriguez is just going to jump by leaps and bounds. And so I think the Orioles are going to be a big problem for everyone.
I think so.
And that hurts my soul to kind of say, but I kind of, in my heart of hearts, love the Orioles. And so I think the Orioles are going to be a freaking problem.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Cinderella story of baseball right now. None of us can be terribly mad about it because of everything the franchise has been through and because of their obvious, stacked talent and players who are really fun to watch. So I totally agree with everything you just said. I guess more on we talked about how we think the Tigers are going to be maybe sneaky good for the Central in the AL. And then on the NL side of things, the Braves and the Phillies are both on the brink of when is it their time to just go take that ring? Because on paper, I think they are two of the best teams in baseball, and they're both in the same league. So I think we're going to see great competition among those two teams. Again, My biggest fear for the NL Central is that the Cubs are not done. And not only are they going to sign Cody Bellinger, I think they're going to do one more thing that's like going to make me so mad and scared. And I think they will be the biggest competition for the Cardinals in the upcoming season. And then my other take is I am with you, Joan. I want to see the Diamondbacks take the division from the Dodgers more than ever. And I think it could totally happen. I mean, I just don't think, let me ask you guys this. Do you think the Dodgers are the best team in the league, even on paper?
No.
I think that's a good question. I mean, I wonder about their pitching. Have they made, I mean, what do you think about Kershaw? Is he coming back or is he?
I don't know. I feel like if he was, he'd already be back. Like they would have
That's
already
what I
signed him
think.
to a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but he's I don't know, but Dodger fans, cover your ears. I don't want to say anything nice about the Dodgers, but really and truly, like that hurts my heart that last game where the Diamondbacks just teed off on Clayton Kershaw, like that's the last game of Clayton Kershaw's career.
No baseball fan wants to see that.
No,
Like that hurts my heart as just like a baseball fan because he's had such a storied, long, good career that I'm all, it can't end on that note. Like something, he's got to go do something else. And so as a baseball fan, I kind of want him to sign again just to get that taste out of my mouth. But then as an Astros fan, and I'm like, no, thank you. Just, you can go live in your house in Dallas, wherever you live, and just do that. I don't know. I feel like if the Dodgers were going to sign him already, they would have already done it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't. I think the Braves and the Phillies and I think that the Diamondbacks are right up there, like even just on paper, and obviously the Orioles now too. Like, I just don't think as much as they've got this like super team mentality, and like I'm sure you all have seen the quote from Mookie Betts going around being like, every other team that plays us, it's going to be like their World Series. Oh, I bookmarked that, ladies, because
so did I.
I just the ego oozing off of it from the Dodgers right now is just like, that's my least favorite thing to see in baseball. I felt like that was the Dodgers are my Mets from last year. And I know that they're a much more well-rounded franchise. You know, you could go on for ages between the differences between how they're built, and like they do deserve more success on that level than the Mets, who just went out and spent as much money blindly as they could. And look what happened, exactly what I thought would happen. But yeah, there is no super team in baseball. And over 162, like you just can't stack it that way, no matter how much money you're willing to spend. And I think that they prioritized spending money over being more strategic to an extent, at least for the 2024 season. Talk to me again in 2025, depending on how Shohei Ohtani's doing. But in 2024, I'm like, I'm not scared of you, Dodgers.
Nope. And Strike Zone concurs. Not winning the World Series. So yeah, you got your Yamamotos and your Ohtanis, and but not gonna happen. I think that's a good prediction. We could all live with.
Yeah, we can all be on the same page.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anti-Dodgers.
All hate
this is not an anti-Dodgers podcast.
Okay. So I guess that's a good way to sort of close things up then.
Yeah.
In this space of unity.
Exactly. And I will say one of
absolutely.
the things, like the Yankees are notorious for signing the big contracts, right? And like stacking their team. But I do think the thing that I've always respected about the Yankees, I'm talking to all of you Yankees fans to get you on my side right now, is that I do think that they walk that line of still being strategic about it. Yes, sometimes they get stuck with a Giancarlo Stanton contract and they lack flexibility because of that. But they're not like, I don't know, there's still a level of strategy to it, which is why Cashman has been around for so long, and why they are, it's the way to be competitive year over year, as opposed to just a flash in the pan. And that's what I don't like about what the Mets and even the Dodgers are trying to do, where they're just so desperate to get that one big flash in the pan that they throw the strategy out the window to some extent. And you
Right.
never see
Right.
the Yankees do that, even if it means they have a down year like they did last year because they tried a different strategy and it didn't work. So that's okay. Sometimes that happens. I have a lot more respect for a team like that than someone like the Mets who went out and just outspent everyone and said, like, this is going to work, right?
Right.
Yeah. Throw that spaghetti on the wall. See how it sticks there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And and that's why we called the last line of the show "Unpredictable Season Ahead." There's some sleeper teams. I saw someone mention in the chat. Phillies, absolutely. Can't close both eyes on them at any moment.
No.
And then there's the teams we're all going to be watching, like the O's, who who knew? Last place 2 seasons ago, second to last place, I think, last season. And who knew? I mean, they crept up there actually at the end of last season. But
yeah, the Royals and the Padres I see in the chat too. The Royals made some sneaky good moves. They're going to be more competitive than they have been in a long time. So that's exciting. And I do think the Padres are another team that I'm so much more excited to see them coming into 24 than I was in 23, when again, it was just like, how many flashy players can we sign? And they've had to be more strategic this offseason. And they will win more games in 2024 because of it.
Sure.
100%. And so, at the top of the show, ladies, we have our friend Spencer, who always gives a trivia question of the week. And if you don't mind, I'm going to throw it up on the screen as our finale. Chris, did you have anything you want to say before I put the trivia question up?
No, go right ahead.
Okay, so let me do that. Right quick.
I'm nervous.
Okay. So it's Yankee focused, and it's also Amazon contextualized. Currently running on Amazon is the second season of the series Reacher. Reacher is based on the film's Jack Reacher, which is based on the novels by Lee Child. In the first film, Jack Reacher, portrayed by Tom Cruise, uses the name of a Yankees second baseman to hide his identity when confronted by a woman. If you saw the film, you know the player. Who was the Yankees second baseman referred to by Reacher? So if you have Amazon Prime and you want to give the answer later, then you're taking an open book test. Otherwise, put your guesses in the chat, or I'll just tell you right now.
Yeah.
Suzy, you're really into the Reacher series, right?
Yeah, and I remember seeing this, watching it and being like, "Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that." But that was before Baseball Suzy, and that was not a name that I had in my Rolodex of Yankee names. So no, I don't remember it, and it's making me so mad.
It's Jimmy Reese. Was that like? Were you thinking like Ja?
Yeah, and I'm like, it's there, but no, that's before Baseball Suzy, like way before Baseball Suzy, and that's so.
And one more time, if you're on Twitter, there's Suzy and Kelsey's. If you're not following them, what's wrong with you? All of these ladies, they're full of knowledge and sass and fun.
And we're not all Cardinals and Astros stuff, we promise. As I hope we've proven today. I saw some shade in the chat early on that they don't know anything about the New York Yankees. We do, but we like to talk about all the teams. Just like
give me names after the show. I'll take care of it.
Yeah, exactly. And the chat that we've got is so active that they go without us.
Ooh.
So I noticed they're having their own conversation over there. I can't wait to find out what they're talking about.
Oh, chat.
What was
the
question? I'm sorry.
So this is our leader of Pinstripe Chronicles, and I ignored his question.
Oh, here it is. Suzy, would you compare the Orioles to the Astros as a team that built through the draft and bad seasons to take the game by storm? That's a really good question.
Yeah. Oh, I did answer that in the chat. Maybe I didn't at you correctly, but yeah. But yeah, no, for sure that especially since Sig Mejdal and Mike Elias, who came from the Astros organization, built that team, and 1000%, the Baltimore Orioles, as of right now, are, I don't know, the 2016, 2017 Astros. You were literally just missing pitching, and that's
here they come.
Yeah. And here you go. Like Corbin Burns, there you go. Like that's so 1000%. Like I still kind of miss Michael Elias and Sigma Dell, and I was like, oh, look, think of the things that we could have done, but that's okay. That's okay. We have Dana Brown, and I'm content. We're speaking it into existence.
You don't miss Jeff Lunau? Oh, you don't even know. I forgot. That was
a little bit. A little bit. A little bit, but no. I miss Crane. All right. Yeah, and
thanks. You got one new follower from Strike Zone. I'm sure many more will come.
Excellent.
And
Chris, make sure you guys check out the podcast, Bourbon and Baseball, Babes, and Peace, Love, and Baseball. They're all interesting, and they each have a different feel, vibe, and they're all fun to listen to and informative, not just fun. So give a listen, check those out wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe to this podcast. Find us where you find us. We see a lot of you on X or Twitter. I'm also on Facebook if you want to find me there, Instagram, etc. But we love chatting with you every Sunday morning. And it was such a pleasure having these two really incredible women with us, both as podcasters and as baseball analysts baseball thinkers. We appreciate you joining us today and spending part of your Sunday with us.
Yes. Thank you so much both for having us. Like we totally enjoyed this. So
yeah,
well, I mean, I know I did. I don't want to speak for Kelsey, but I'm pretty sure she did too. So.
What's she gonna say now?
Well, besides being told that I don't know anything about the New York Yankees, that one time in the chat, I did have a great time.
I have a record and I have the names. I'm sad I missed it in real time.
No, but thank you guys so much. This is awesome. And just like you said, I think one of the best points that you bring up is that there's so much content to consume, but it's worth consuming because we all have different perspectives and different angles of covering the game and our teams. And it's awesome.
100%.
Thanks for bringing us together.
So much gratitude. I echo Chris's thanks. And all of you out there, you'll always have a reserved seat with Chris and me every Sunday right here on the upper deck. Let's go Yankees.
Go Yankees.
And welcome.
Yay!